I'm just gonna wait a minute to see if anybody joins. Okay, so I'm just gonna jump right in. Everybody's been talking about AI, ChatGPT for the last several months, and a lot of people have tried. Maybe they got an invitation to Bard or to Bing GPT, or they're hearing people talk about it. They think that, oh, maybe I could write an essay or an article or a blog post with it. But most people, and this is what I did the first few months after it came out, is I played around with it once or twice. I'm like, oh, that seems a little useful. And then I moved on. But this time around, there was just so much talk and it was moving so quickly, I decided I had no choice but to just dive in. And as I dove in, I started realizing that the entire way we interact with computers is about to change. It's already changed. So just to give a very quick background, what these AI tools are, there's hundreds of companies claiming that they're AI and they aren't really. But essentially what we're describing here are mostly what's called large language models. And as I understand it, and I'm not technical, I'm not a developer, but as I understand it, large language models they're basically feeding into these systems, like every book that's ever been written, every Wikipedia article in every language, newspaper archives, pretty much the entire internet, or the corpus of the history of humanity. So all the content that has been created in the history of humanity that seems relevant and credible gets fed into this model. And the model's job is just to understand language. So it understands the relationships between words. And these are complex relationships. And there could be as many as around 2,000 layers of understanding. What that means is that if I have a sentence like, the dog jumped over the fox, every word in that sentence is going to be assigned a certain attention score in how, like the word jumped, who jumped, the fox jumped, things like that. And we can get the stuff explained later, and we probably will. I don't need to get into the details, but if you think about the idea that this model has seen, billions upon billions of versions of sentences and words and phrases and concepts and ideas, it essentially has a statistical model of what words belong next to what words in what context. And it's so mind-blowing that I can literally ask it a halacha shaila. It's never seen a posek. It's not a rabbi. It's never learned the day of Torah. And it can actually start citing these sources from Rishonim and from Poskim and Shulchan Aruch and Yoreh De'ah. It's pretty mind-blowing. Now, there's also a risk of what's called hallucinations, where, because it's really predicting the word that comes next, it's not necessarily referencing a knowledge base of factual information, but that's very quickly being solved with what's called vector embeddings. Things like Pinecone and a few other tools like that essentially could give long-term memory and accurate memory into these tools. So what's really crucial to understand here is, right now, the way you and I interact with a computer or with technology is maybe we type, maybe we click a button, maybe we toggle a switch, maybe we swipe on a device. But if anybody's tried to use Siri or Alexa or Google Voice Search these things over the last 3-4 years, we've mostly been frustrated with half the time the system's not understanding what we're saying. It was using something called syntactic understanding. It was looking for keywords within a phrase and then trying to match that. But now we have something called semantic, where now we can understand what the actual meaning of the words are. So what this means fundamentally is the same way a mouse is an input device for a computer and a touch screen is an input device for a computer. we're now at a place where computers have at least the foundation to understand language, where we can talk to the computer and give it complex instructions, and it will actually reason and understand what we actually want to get at the end of the day. So what in the past was really, really frustrating to figure out, let's say I want to figure out a restaurant that has great reviews, that's open right now, that's near me, that's not too busy. I would probably have to do like 5 different searches on Google to get that answer. But nowadays with these large language models, I can literally just say exactly what I just said, and it will come up with ideas that are very relevant to me. The thing is, there's still a whole universe that needs to be discovered and unlocked around this, and that's what's being built right now. And then there's also customizing these for every industry. So take the example of halacha. People might think it's a little strange for us to be asking a chatbot or a computer for to paskin a shaila, and I'm told that there are poskim that have discussed this in the past, but there's really no reason why a knowledgeable posek who knows the sources and knows what's going to be real and what's a hallucination, there's no reason why they can't be using these tools to reference many more sources. Another example is, I know when I ask a shaila to my Rav, he usually asks me a bunch of questions back, because there's usually nuances that actually matter with how to paskin the shaila. What's the saying that anybody can answer something, but it takes a real Talmid Chacham to matter something. So it's really about understanding the nuances, asking the right question. Right now, with a large language model, if I was a posik, which I'm not, and I were to type in saying someone's asking me XYZ shaila, what are 20 questions I should ask that person or consider that might impact the final psak of the halacha? And it will probably come up with better questions than my Rav can come up with, and quicker. And maybe 10 of the questions the Rav will come up with on his own, but there could be all sorts of nuances that they just don't know because they don't have Kol Torah Kula at their fingertips. But if someone were to go ahead and take vector embeddings and build into that actual Shulchan Aruch, Yeridea, all the different poskim, and then use that to query these databases, it can actually look for the answer and understand, all these references. So the implications here are massive across the board, but the fundamental idea is that computers can now understand natural language, the way you and I talk, and they can also generate responses in natural language. And this means that in the near future, the way we interact with our devices is going to fundamentally change. I think as Orthodox Jews, we need to think about this on a more serious level, because we have a framework around speech, around Lashon Hara, around what's appropriate, what's not appropriate. And I think a lot of these parameters are going to be important for building into these models. There's also going to be entirely new challenges that face us, that right now we're solving problems with filters, but I just talked about text to text right now, but there's also things like Midjourney, which are text to image, and other tools are text to code, text to video, where you can basically say, I want to create XYZ, and it'll produce an image or a video. And that's going to create a lot of challenges around filters, SNES, all sorts of things like that. And we're going to have to get ahead of these challenges. And I'm sure there's very smart people working on these things right now, but you basically have a Sherpa at the top of the mountain that knows everything in the history of the world at your fingertips. And everybody does. And it's basically free to use. And it's going to start being integrated into everything we do. Our lives are going to start getting significantly easier. We're going to be spending significantly less money on things because we're going to be able to do it much quicker. This is going to create a ton of opportunity, a ton of free time probably, but it's also going to displace a lot of people's jobs that don't get on it as quickly as possible. And my personal belief is that the quicker we embrace it within the Jewish community, the less likely we are to, deal with, repercussions and pain that that might emerge in various industries that are slow to adapt. this is moving so quickly that within like a few weeks of GPT-4, which is the latest, best large language model, in my opinion, so far, that came out, which was March 14th, within a week of that, someone created a bot called AutoGPT that essentially you don't have to just ask the computer a question and get an answer. The computer can actually then go search the internet for you and not just find information, but then it can ask the next questions it needs. So I could say, plan a trip to Israel for me over 10 days. I've got a budget of $1,500. I really like eating out. And my wife and I, when we like to go out, we like to watch shidduch dates. So we like to walk around the places where there's lots of people around and do people watching. Plan an itinerary for us within our budget. And that task really needs a bunch of steps, right? First, it needs to know the dates. It needs to know when Shabbos is. It needs to know what's open. It needs to know which places have good reviews, which places are likely to, in this example, have shidduch dates that we can kind of watch, or other people watching activities. And it can, as it starts extracting that information, these bots will then go the next step and actually start booking trips for us and booking reservations and putting everything in place and even paying for things, etc. So an entire economy may emerge of these autonomous agents, they're called, interacting with other autonomous agents. And that's going to create a whole new opportunity, which is if I have a restaurant today and I want autonomous agents to not just discover my restaurant, but actually book reservations at my restaurant when someone has a task that's related to it, I'm going to need to make sure that those bots can discover my site, can understand it, and that I enable it correctly for this. So I don't think that's a crazy skill that's going to be hard to develop, but there is a skill to communicating called prompting and prompt engineering. And every large language model has different capabilities. So, so understanding the parameters that these chats can understand and how they work is going to be the key to really be more creative with accomplishing goals. So as an example, I was able to use this model to reverse engineer how Google matches keywords to search terms and ads, which is related to my industry. So everybody within their industry that has an expertise in a specific domain, the quicker they master these tools, the quicker they'll be ahead of all their competitors in the space and can really make a difference. You could cut your costs and still make much more profit. There's a lot of things that are happening here, but this stuff's moving really, really quickly. And the other thing to be aware of is that every time there's a gold rush, a lot of people rush to sell things to those miners, selling shovels, things like that. So there's a lot of tools out there claiming to be AI that are AI that really you can accomplish what they're selling to you for free using ChatGPT or Midjourney or one of these other tools, but because you don't know about it, you're going to end up paying for something and maybe even paying an annual subscription or something like that. So one of the main goals of this group and what I hope to accomplish is helping us navigate that. As an example, I want to create a logo for AI Chaverim. Now, I wasn't going to go out and spend $15,000, $30,000 on a branding package. And there's a few AI tools out there that advertise that they're great for logos and they put together a brand package and they cost like $50, $100 a logo, $30 a month maybe. And to me, that all just doesn't seem worthwhile because I feel like they're probably just using open source available stuff. So I did some searching and messing around, and it turns out Namecheap actually has a completely free logo generator. Now, a lot of these other companies claim they're free, but then you can only download like a low quality version and you can't do anything else. Namecheap is trying to sell you the domain name. They want to sell you websites. They want to upsell you other things, but the logo they give you completely for free. So that's also going to be a very big opportunity, which is using prompts to provide services to your industry that could be free, but also in this group, I want to help us, if you want to create a logo, if whatever your goal is that you're trying to accomplish, you want to plan a 3-day Yontiv menu, whatever the goal that you have is, I want people in the group here to be able to help you navigate that and realize that a good portion of the things that you're asking other people to do for you today, you can now ask a computer to do for you, and it will be capable of doing it. And you don't need to be overwhelmed by how technical it is, because that's the point of large language models. It's meant to understand the everyday person. So while prompt engineering lets you get a better outcome, and different language models are more effective than others, and we're going to teach you all those skills here as well, the reality is that the next large language model that comes out is going to need less prompting and less inputs. And we're going to have better tools for how we reference our preferences when interacting with these tools. So the world's really changing really, really rapidly. And to give you an idea, OpenAI's ChatGPT was the fastest growing product in the history of the world. I think within 2 months, they had 100 million users. But to put that into context for you, there's 8 billion people on the planet. To be fair, China, a bunch of Venezuela, a bunch of countries like that do not have access to OpenAI or ChatGPT. So that's obviously billions of people, but there's maybe 200, 300 million people on the planet using these tools today. And there's 8 billion people, which means that we're still ahead of 98% of the population. So we're early. And the goal here is really just as quickly as possible for you to see how you can actually use this in your everyday life. So whether you're the director of a nonprofit, a student, a teacher, a Rebbe, a posek, an entrepreneur with a business, or a nursing home administrator, whatever job you have, goal you have, graphic designer, our goal is to bring you the best information, the best resources. We have some really brilliant people in the community that are already here who are on the cutting edge of these things. And we even have some people that are building the underlying technology that makes these things work. And we'll bring those speeches and things to you as well as they come along. But I need you guys to, ask for help and tell me what you need, and we'll figure it out together. And let's do it publicly so everybody else can learn from these experiences. So I don't know if anybody has any questions. I see a couple people in the, that joined, which is really great. But if anybody wants to raise your hand, I don't know if there's a way to do it because this is new for me, or type into the chat. I'll address it. If not, I'll just end this video. We'll have it saved in the group and people could comment on it that way. So I have no idea if anybody's raised their hand or trying to participate. Unless something shows up in the chat. Oh, thanks, Jake. Appreciate the comment. I'm also looking forward for the group to grow. All right, I think I'm just going to wrap this up here. And if anybody else wants to put up events like this, which was an impromptu, live kind of breakout room, I'm pretty sure the capability is open. And if it's not, message me and I'll give you the capability. But this is a community. It's not my platform. It's meant for everybody. So let's figure out how to make it as useful as possible. Oh, so Avram David asks about curious ways to create a monetizable business using these tools. So my number one answer to that question is why don't we ask ChatGPT? So I don't know if you guys could see my screen. Right here, I've got ChatGPT open. I'm using AIPRM. It's a Chrome plugin that overlays on top of it, and they have these verified prompts that let you do all sorts of really cool stuff. But for this, I'll probably just write my own prompt. Let's go into model 4, because I think 4 is more effective. Hopefully there's no prompt overlaid on this, because I really want this to just be mine. What are some monetizable business ideas using LLMs? And let's just see if you guys see this here. So it's giving us 10 ideas. So content creation services, where you could sell it at a discount, copywriting, editing services. Okay, these are kind of virtual assistant platform. You could take your company SOPs and automate pieces of them integrated within your project management platform. I guess AI powered tutoring. I'm not loving these responses. Honestly, I feel like they're kind of generic. So because it's a large language model that's predicting the next word, I put in words like unusual and strange to try to get it to output more creative things. So one note, so that first prompt, I didn't ask it for how many and it gave me 10. With 3.5, it might not give me that many outputs. With 4, in general, you're better off asking what are 7 ideas for this. So here, AI generated fiction and poetry, virtual debate platform. That's interesting. I was able to. You could probably like use famous characters like Abe Lincoln and George Washington debating uh, who's going to win the World Series, and it'll probably output a pretty funny story. Personalized affirmations. I kind of like that idea, motivating people. AI-driven dream interpretation. I love that idea. Just plug in your dream and it'll give you some really, really, so you could kind of sell all these matchmaking. That's interesting. I do think that you can probably put together like shit update idea things or AI-based prank platform. That's awesome. You see that? Develop a service where users can input information about their friends and the AI will generate personalized, humorous prank scenarios or practical jokes. Pranking is obviously very popular, so at least with social media content. AI-powered conspiracy theory generator. I love that. Let's play around with that. So I'm just copying and pasting that, what it says it does. Time traveling rabbis. You guys see this? I don't know if you could see it clear enough. Let me make it bigger. This is, in my mind, this is pretty hilarious. So I asked it to generate a conspiracy theory for why I set up this group. And one answer was, I discovered a group of time-traveling rabbis from the distant future came to share their wisdom, and I'm secretly channeling their advanced knowledge into AI algorithms to help the Jewish world in navigating the complexities of modern life. The AI-powered golem. I'm developing an AI golem to protect the Jewish community from various global challenges. And this is a front to gather collective Jewish wisdom will be used to program the golem and imbue it with a moral compass. Mind reading matzah. The special matzah, when consumed during Pesach, connects the participant in the telepathic network, allowing them to communicate with words and access AI's vast knowledge. See, this is fun. You could do a lot of really interesting things. So in theory, if someone just threw up like a landing page or a chat screen and charged, I don't know, $0.25 per conspiracy theory, or want to develop it even further, you could probably monetize it that way. Personally, what I think the right way to monetize it is to try something like this. I'm going to prompt it, you are an expert at monetization and growing businesses with the smallest investment possible. Please interview me to find the ideal way for me to personally monetize ChatGPT without spending more than $100. Make the ideas as creative, and the reason I'm asking for it to give me creative and weird ideas is this is my theory that it's going to, because it's predicting next word, if I tell it weird or unusual, and maybe it's going to look at like a less likely word to appear next and create better outputs or more creative outputs other than just like, I really don't want it to tell me to be an affiliate marketer and write blog posts about a high search volume, low competition keyword. So here's what it's doing. So it's asking a bunch of questions. That's not really useful for me. So I'm going to stop it and I'm going to ask it, ask me only 3 most important and do them one at a time, and then output 10 great ideas that will blow my mind. Also, we are live, so don't make me look foolish. You see how I could just use any language here? Like the amount of creativity this is going to unlock for creative people is just crazy. And this is just text to text. So the first question it's asking, what are my hobbies, interests, or unique skills? So I'm going to say search engine marketing, digital advertising, web analytics, and growing website traffic. Any niche communities, Jewish WhatsApp marketing chat and WhatsApp AI chat, and a marketing agency owner mastermind group. I'm comfortable but shy at first. It's hard to go live, but once I do, it's easy. Let's see what it wants me to do. So AI generated ad copy service, and to for businesses within the Jewish community and share it via your WhatsApp marketing chat. Okay. The reason it's asking me about these communities is because I asked it for ideas I don't have to spend money on. So it kind of understood what are some free ways that you already have exposure. Marketing masterclasses. Okay. AI enhanced website traffic analysis. So that's actually really interesting. So some of these things I've done already, and I'll show you guys in a minute. Personalized WhatsApp AI chatbots. That's an interesting idea. Live ChatGPT demonstrations. Okay, we're doing that now. Sorry, it's free, I guess. AI-driven marketing case studies, ChatGPT-driven Jewish event promotion. And each one of these ideas, I can ask ChatGPT to then do for me or give me a game plan for. So for example, I could do something like this. I really like number 10. Can you create an SOP for implementing, leveraging ChatGPT as often as possible, and give me an example for a live event demonstrating ChatGPT like your idea number 7. You see how this is like completely natural language. Like I'm referencing number 7, number 10, and it's pretty much got me figured out. So first create the event, identify the event, create a project brief, generate content ideas. So I asked it to give me examples too. So let's see if it outputs something after this kind of SOP of steps. So it gave us a title for the event. It gave us a description. And now it's giving me an agenda for the event. I'm going to ask it, please write a compelling flyer, including which graphics should be used to Now, what I could have done is, so it tells me to use a graphic here. I could have asked it to give me a prompt to put into Midjourney to generate an image, or some other large language model tool. So the ideas are really, the only limitation is what's on your mind and what you want to do. But I mean, we literally right now have a flyer completely written up for an event demonstrating ChatGPT and its capabilities. And I mean, how long did this whole thing take us? 5 minutes from start to finish on these ideas. And what did I do? All I did was I asked it to interview me to figure out how I can best utilize the tools. So the same way we did that, anybody can literally just do, here, I'll show you what I can do. I'll do this for our chat right here. You are an expert ChatGPT coach. Help me onboard a new user to your tool that is overwhelmed. Ask them questions to help show how you can make their lives So it's asking me a question. I'm going to reply in natural language. It's just like AI seems like so complicated. And I'm told it may replace so many jobs. I just don't know where to start. It's not like I need an essay. How can this actually make my life easier? Because all this AI talk is making me anxious. So you see what it does here, right? It tries to allay my fears, like talking to a therapist or a friend. So it's telling me it could save me time with research, give me personalized recommendations, it can improve my skills, it can help me make better decisions, and increase my productivity. So I'm going to address that. I feel like this is a waste of my time. How can you help me right now see the value? immediately. So here it says it can answer questions. Do you have a burning question that you need to answer right now? Generating ideas. Are you stuck on a project? Need inspiration? Simplifying tasks. Language assistance. Personalized recommendations. I'm going to ask it. I need ideas for how to actually use you in my life. Now, just a heads up, we're using GPT-4, which has a limit of, I think, 25 searches every 3 hours, and I'm going to bump into that. So research, writing. So I'm going to reply, those are generic ideas. I need personalized ideas right now. So now it's starting to ask me questions. Do I have hobbies, career aspirations? I like marketing, and I like helping people. So it's giving me some ideas around marketing, but obviously I can get more specific. I could do this for hours, but one example I want to show very quickly, if I could find it, is actually I can do it with a new chat. So check this out. So ARPM can do live stuff. So there's a guy, Joel Kletke, he's really, really awesome. And he created a checklist of like 20 or 30 ways to check if a landing page is a good landing page or effective. Now, this tool lets me live crawl the internet. So someone give me a website that either your company or your website, and I'm going to audit it in this chat. So someone just drop a URL in the chat and I'll plug it in. Anybody brave enough? Okay, there you go. JiveTel. I'm just gonna click on it. And what it's doing right now is it's live crawling the website and it's auditing it. So to give you guys an idea of what Joel's list looks like, I'll show you quickly the checklist, if it lets me. Oh, I've got this in full screen. Okay, so here's Joel's checklist here. You know, is it attention grabbing? Does it address why I should care? Who's it for? Is there a unique selling proposition? Does the headline have a USP, subheadline, body, right? It goes, it's a very, by far the most comprehensive landing page checklist I've ever seen. And I plugged that in, and I'll show you guys in a minute, in the prompt. And here's what it said for JiveTel. So the hero section, the text lacks a clear hero section that answers the question, why should I care and what is it? USP, the text lacks, so I think some of this is just because the site is, if I were to open it, I think it's not, it's more of a home page than a landing page. So it's not like a very text rich page. So maybe there would have been a better URL to use. But in the meantime, you know, it's also scoring it on 1 to 10, how it's doing, but then it gets better. So the good news is there's no misused words and phrases, and there's no like time wasting words that shouldn't be there. Sentence structure, short paragraphs, good, right? Social proof, right? It has supported statistics, supports it, right? That's pretty great. And then it gives me a summary. Now, what it's actually supposed to do in this prompt that I wrote, and I guess there's I'll show you guys what the actual prompt is. If it lets me. So I'm going to drop it into the chat here so you guys can kind of see the full prompt. But basically, and Ozzy, if you're comfortable with me sharing the result, I'll drop it in there as well, copy and paste it. If not, that's fine too. But I can, it's pretty awesome that I could just take anybody's checklist out there. And like, Simon Sinek has his book, Start With Why. And he has another book called like Find Your Why, and it's meant to interview you to find stories to find your why. I wrote a prompt that lets me do that. And I actually got my own prompt. It gave me good results and helped me rewrite my my LinkedIn profile, etc. And you could do all sorts of things like that. So it's pretty amazing what you could do with this. It's just like an assistant, a co-pilot that does everything that you want it to do as long as you know how to interact with it. And then if you use something like AIPRM, you've got, I don't know, there's 71 of their premium prompts that you have to pay like $50 a month to access. But I can, it looks like I can audit a page for SEO. I could summarize a site. I could create prompts for Stable Diffusion to create images or Midjourney. I can ask it for Excel help writing, macros or whatever I want. I can cluster keywords together. And these are sorted by topic also. And that's just what's in the premium tested prompts. The public, it looks like they've got close to 3,000 prompts in here. And pretty much anything you could think of that you want to do, you can find a prompt for. I just can't promise it's good. But anyway, that's all I got to show at this stage. So all right, it looks like Ozzy's cool with me sharing that. Now, to be fair, I sent this over to Joel, and he actually told me how to improve the prompt, and I'll probably do that at some point. So the copy paste didn't come out as well. It came out like a table here, but that's still pretty cool that I can. One idea to make money, I might do this myself, is every time there's like a famous book out there, like I'm reading Atomic Habits right now by James Clear, and there's some workbook or exercise around it, I could build a prompt that kind of goes through that workbook and exercise, and I could sell it on Amazon maybe, like just make it like a one-page ebook with the prompt, or call it like the unofficial Atomic Habits workbook, and just use ChatGPT prompts to enable that. Charge $1 for it, 99 cents. I'm sure some people will buy it. And so you could just do that over and over and over again. So, I mean, there's a gazillion ways to monetize this stuff. But for now, probably the bigger ones will be from looking for ways to make your life easier and free up your time so you could do more important things. That's probably where the bigger monetization is going to come from, is if you're a deep expert, like I know Avramosho asked that question earlier, is he probably understands the stuff better than anybody I know. He's absolutely brilliant. So I would imagine that he probably has some really creative ideas of ways to build custom LLMs. Like I'm pretty sure we're going to need Hechsherim for these large language models. So someone out there wants to start a Hechsher for large language models. I do think we're going to need that. But lots of interesting opportunities. Anyway, I'll just ramble forever, so I'm going to call it quits right here. This should save in the platform, and people can watch it as they see fit. I'm going to try to save it in like the intro course as well. But feel free to keep up a discussion on the video. In terms of tag filtering, um, I mean, I don't know how they're going to be able to do it. Like, I could jailbreak these things in so many ways that, text to text, I'm less worried about. But text to image, like right now, if you go to a prompt marketplace, they're going to have like a not safe for work category and tag. And so either we'll have to create our own resources, or a better idea is someone like in Avram Moshe Gelfish, who's absolutely brilliant, coming up with a large language model angle that actually lets you filter it, or that can actually, like they could try to make it child safe or child proof and build that in, but maybe the model itself that's trained on actually, so like so someone asked about like how do you make sure that these large language models don't ever develop like consciousness or things. So the idea was basically you take the training set that's used for like, let's say GPT-4, and you feed that into GPT 3.5 and you ask it to tag everything in the training set relating to consciousness. And then you remove that from a training set and create a new large language model with that data there with everything else removed. And then from there you have a result. But I mean, people are going to be able to interact with these chats via text message on their phone, and it's going to be able to do all sorts of things. So like I don't think they'll ever be able to be ahead of what people can do if they want to access things they don't want to access. So I don't know the solution, but maybe that's what they could do, is they could use a large language model to tag everything automatically that's, that shouldn't be in there, and then release that as like a customized, kosher model of the large language model, and see how that does. But that sounds like a pretty big undertaking. And I don't know if people actually value it or not. Who knows? You know, I don't have the answers there. I'd be curious if they're addressing it. But I've always been under the general belief that we're better off embracing and understanding the technology than just, avoiding it and hoping that like we're better off for avoiding it. And time may prove me wrong. We clearly see with like social media harm. Yeah, I mean, that's a challenge. I mean, listen, so there's one thing I will point out. There's going to be a bunch of copyright lawsuits about these training sets and models, and it's not clear what's going to happen. The way OpenAI says they plan on addressing these things is something called a system user and a system message. So a system message would basically be, you could say like, an Orthodox Jew who adheres to the strictest standards of tznius and halacha, and that's the system message that's going in, and then every prompt after that is kind of filtered against that. And the large language model, in theory, should censor itself pretty effectively. And so I don't know the output, but someone's going to have to do that research and testing. But yeah, I mean, I don't think anybody's going to be able to prevent people from accessing other. I think it's going to be a person by person basis. I think the best thing I could say on this topic is something I heard from the Chavetz Chaim. I didn't hear it from him, not that old. Something I heard that the Chavetz Chaim told his granddaughter, who was part of the Enlightenment movement, that while the world's building technology that could drop bombs and destroy humanity, we're busy building people and mention. And so these are tools, and your character is what determines how you're going to use these tools. So the real solution is working on developing people's character and giving people, and then trusting them. I mean, you don't want to put them in harm's way, but I think that's the key, is developing the character of them. And I do think system messages are going to be used even hard coded into these large language models, because all sorts of countries are going to have their own restrictions around what these are used for and how they're used. And what the parameters are. So, and who knows, maybe tomorrow someone drops a big, EMP pulse and wipes out all the technology. I mean, I hope not, but I'm just saying, like, the only thing, I'll close this with something that Rabbi Kaplan wrote in the 1970s, and he was citing, I think, Rashi on some Gemaras in a few places, that if that Mashiach coming may actually be a technological revolution. When we talk about like reversing, Adam's curse and Chava's curse, but right? That by the sweat of your brow you'll earn a living. That in the future, no one's going to have to work. So he wrote this in the 1970s that might actually be a technological revolution, not like a miraculous, like Mashiach coming and suddenly no one has to work anymore. So these large language models might be part of that ushering in the redemption, however you want to translate or interpret that. But he wrote that in the 1970s. So to be fair, I think he may have written somewhere that if the generation's not worthy of Mashiach, it will come through technology versus through an open miracle. But I'm not sure if that's true or not. But the main thing I would say is GPT-4 is mind-blowing with what it could do. I'm not a developer, and I was able to get code deployed live by copying and pasting instructions from ChatGPT. And the next large language model or the next innovation in these vector embeddings and things like that might just like, we already have unexpected sort of emergent behavior where we don't even quite understand how it's producing the output it's producing. So I would say that the solution might come from out of left field. I don't know where it's going to come from, but it might not come from anywhere that we expect it to come from. The famous example that they give was that in the 1890s, maybe even the early 1900s, there was articles about all the horse manure in Manhattan was going to just like cover the city with the amount of horses and buggies there were. And they were looking for solutions to clean up all of that, all that stuff. And the solution ended up coming in the form of cars. Like no one there predicted that, oh, cars are just going to make horse and buggy obsolete, and that's what's going to change it. So it could very well be that these large language models, first of all, they could be used to detect things that we shouldn't see much quicker. Like TAG could probably use a large language model type technology and an image recognition, like a Midjourney large language model, however those things work, and build that straight into like your not just your browser, but like your modem or your router, and it could filter like images you shouldn't see and text you shouldn't see on that level. So this could also just like make censorship 10 times more effective and make it much easier to find and block things that we shouldn't see, and also maybe open up millions of websites that we should have access to that because of filters we don't. Not because they're bad, just because those no one's ever really brought it up that we need access to it. So who knows? But maybe we could have discussions in the group about that. Anyway, thanks a lot for joining, and hopefully we could do more of these.